Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Preference. We are glad you made it. We have a treat for you today. We collectively are going to dive into that $15 billion short fiasco that the VA has put themselves into with a little extra sprinkle of some additional, I guess, irritations, at least from my part. And, I'm sure that you guys will share your thoughts on it as well. Then we're going to jump into some other exciting news about veterans basically being in the front spotlight there. And I'm not going to take anything else away from that because I want that to kind of be a little extra treat. It's pretty exciting to know that veterans are being recognized and being seen at the highest levels possible. And that's a good thing, I think, for all of us. We're also going to talk about some viewpoints politically. And look, we're in an election year. It is what it is. Everything we have as veterans is really on the back of another veteran fighting for it and getting legislation put in place that then created the law or regulation or what have you. So it's unavoidable to, it would be a disservice, right, to not talk about things a little bit politically because we're so intertwined into it by being a veteran, either from our military service. We might have family members that are serving that we care about and what's going to happen with them and what happens when they get out and blah, blah, blah. So, God, that was long. Sorry about that. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. The two asks are really, look, hit the thumbs up and let the video run. Those are the two things that help to push this information out, and we are happy to share it with you here today. I'm going to kick it over to Randy to open us up with regard to the VA and their horrific current situation. Randy.
Yeah, so all over the news, we've done a video or two on it in this channel. But there is a major shortfall looming with the VA. So here's a little bit of an updated article. It's from the Federal News Network. I want to thank Jared Serbu for putting this out. We're going to put a link just down below so you can click on this and follow along. I'm going to read a little bit, then we'll pause and discuss what we have going on here. So VA chief says increased outreach and utilization drove massive budget shortfall. Secretary Dennis McDonough says Congress needs to act by mid-September to prevent a delay in benefits payments to veterans. Here we are in late July, almost August, guys. And so that's not a lot of time. And guess what? As far as I know, Congress is in recess right now. So by the time they get back in early September, they're not going to have a lot of time to figure this out. Continuing on here, Veterans Affairs Secretary Dennis McDonough defended his department's $15 billion shortfall on Tuesday, saying the red ink projected this year and next is being driven almost entirely by an increased utilization of veterans' benefits and healthcare. The department notified lawmakers last week that on its current trajectory, the department would overspend in fiscal 2024 by nearly $3 billion. And that the 2025 budget that the Biden administration proposed earlier this year would fall short by about $12 billion. So altogether, folks, we have $15 billion and a huge ass problem that's facing our community. I'm going to reread one little piece here, and then I'm going to kick it over to Chris for his thoughts. But it says, Congress needs to act by mid-September to prevent a delay in benefit payments to veterans. $15 billion. Big number, big problem. Chris, what do you think?
Yikes, man. I'm trying to. There was once in my professional career where I went over budget. Proportionally, I think it would be like a gajillion to $1 that I was over budget. I mean, this is not just a budget shortfall. This is hugely impactful to the benefits that veterans are going to receive. I can imagine the complexities that are involved, but at some point, can't you start seeing that there's things trending in the wrong direction before it hits 3 billion, much less 12? So I understand fully that increased awareness, increased application, all of these things lead to that good intent could often lead into bad execution. I just, we got to be better. I mean, I really don't understand how it gets to this point in this extreme. What's going to be interesting is what options they have to do about it.
No, excellent points. Jason, over to you. What do you got on this?
It's yes, to echo Chris's point, right? 15 billion is not 15 million, right? For an agency this size, 15 million, okay, whatever, right? That's paper. So, paper and paper clips and pens and whatever. 15 billion is gigantic. And yes, I guarantee that even with my limited large scope business experience, right? I mean, I managed 300 and something people at the high. That was the biggest I ever did. And I had, budgets and all that stuff. And I guarantee you that I would be able to see the writing on the wall. So it's either A, laziness, right? And just incompetence, right? Laziness kind of all falls in the same bucket. Or it was a strategic effort internally. They saw it and they're like, we'll wait for whatever reason, right? I don't know. Whatever it is. Here's the reality. It's so frustrating. So here's the part that really bothers me is that, okay, well, now they're putting Congress on their heels, who holds the purse strings, as we all know, to act by mid-September, which is, 2 weeks. And why? To prevent a delay in benefit payments. We're not saying that. This isn't scary. This is the secretary. This is their PR folks stating that benefit payments could be a factor. Now, as we move forward, there's a lot that we need to kind of unpack here. I think that one of the things that we need to unpack here is the VA secretary says out of his own mouth, right? Increased outreach, utilization drove massive budget. What did you think was going to happen when the PACT Act got enabled? What did you think was going to happen when you, the VA, said, act now? The expiration date's coming up for you to get extended back pay. Put in your intent to files. What did you think was going to happen? It doesn't take somebody with a huge degree and 47 characters after their name to figure it out. You're going to get more people, higher demand. It's going to drive up the costs. What does the VA do? Well, the VA then says, hey, let's open up the doors to more healthcare eligibility to wartime veterans, which they should. Good. You should do that. For most folks, there has to be a qualifier like service-connected condition or low or no income, those types of things that drive you into the healthcare system. They removed that barrier and simply said, as long as you serve during this specific wartime period, you can come get VA healthcare. Awesome. That's good. It means more people are going to go to VA for healthcare. Well, what's that going to do? Costs are going to stay the same? No, they're going to go up. But what's the VA going to do about that? Oh, they're going to reduce their healthcare workers by 10,000 through attrition. All of this is just, it's so frustrating to see the train wreck happening in front of your eyes. Here's one of the pieces that I want to throw out there to you guys and want to get your thoughts on it. So the writing should have been clear. I mean, you're doing all these things to attract more people. You're touting more people are coming through the door. You're excited about it. You're sharing that information. Of course, there's going to be a cost associated. This is my own kind of paraphrased version of the VA secretary's quote on this. I think we're going to be fine fiscally. I don't think we're going to need to request any additional funds. I think we can cover it. But if we ever do feel like we need more funds, I'll be back. Really? How wishy-washy is that? I mean, that's a third grader can come up with that. And now, look, it's political mumbo jumbo of, I'm protected if we do, and I'm protected if we don't. I look good, but hey, if I have to come back, that's fine too. Here's the piece I want to throw out to you guys. So the VA's budget is through the Military Construction, Veterans Affairs, and Related Agencies Appropriation Act. Okay, that's their primary funding vehicle, right? That was completed on the House side June 5th. Okay, so almost 2 months ago, month and a half ago, month and 3 weeks ago, whatever. June 5th, that got completed on the House side. The Senate's version of that, the MILCON VA Related Agencies Act, whatever it is, on the Senate side, got marked up. They were making all their changes and appropriating here and, chisel this off and add over here at the beginning of July. And about 4 or 5 days later, somewhere around there, the VA comes and says, hey, I know you guys are already pretty much done with our budget, but guess what? We're short $2.9 billion for this fiscal year right now. And another 12 for next year. So as far as the time frame's concerned, it kind of weird, right? Randy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, timing terrible. The whole, this is just a bad look for the VA. And let's not forget, viewers, that the program integrity tool that manages community care has been offline since early 2023, and the funds flowing to the VA through that, as of a report back in April, was a shortfall of 665 million. By now, it's probably pushing $1 billion. I guess that's budget dust when you're talking about a $15 billion shortfall. But there's money leaking all over the place, and that means veterans are not getting the benefits that they deserve. I agree with you, Jason. The timeline and just the whole look of this is absolutely horrible, and it's an election year. So if I was somebody that, was bootstrapped to Secretary McDonough, I'd be asking a lot of questions. I imagine Congress is going to be asking him a lot of questions, and there needs to be accountability here, folks. Because, we're in, late July. The flash to bang to get this fixed for the problems now is a very short window. And I'm not confident that it's going to get done. I just don't know that the there's enough runway to get this plan off the ground, let alone for next year, because like Jason said, the bill's already marked up and God only knows where it is, in the ether that is our Congress. So I'm going to keep reading and I'll throw it back to Chris here to get a few more thoughts on this. So McDonough told reporters Tuesday the 2024 shortfall lies chiefly in the Veterans Benefits Administration and was mainly driven by VA outreach campaign urging veterans to file the benefits they've earned. He said a similar situation led Congress to increase VBA's authorized funding level towards the end of 2023 as well. So we've known the problem has happened in the past. It's happened again this year, and we didn't do anything about it. Just paraphrasing for you there. We anticipate ultimately producing somewhere north of 2.5 million claims this year, he said. We had been planning for an aggressive growth rate of up to 2.4, but because we're performing and producing at such a high level, we need to raise the authorized level one more time. That will cover the increased benefits paid under compensation and pension claims, as well as increased utilization of readjustment benefits, including the GI Bill and Veteran Readiness and Employment benefits. What all of that means, viewers, is that they did not anticipate. I'm just gonna translate it for you. 2025 shortfall, the VA's much larger 2025 deficit, however, is mostly a result of revised projections that anticipate veterans' use of the VA's healthcare system as it continues to grow next year. Officials said nearly 413,000 veterans enrolled to receive VA healthcare services over the past year, and a 27% increase in new enrollments compared to the year before. That's because of the PACT Act, folks, in large part. So, Chris, I'm going to toss it down to you. Why don't you give us your thoughts on this,
Yeah.
please?
So first of all, your chuckle around performing at a high level did not go unnoticed. It makes you wonder what KPIs they're actually using. And we know what they're talking about. They're talking about applications increase, right? They're talking about processing of those applications. They had to hire 61,000 new employees last year 61,000 have more than 400,000 employees in the VA now. That's the fastest rate of growth of headcount in 15 years. And guess what? They're going to be cutting a bunch of them next year, and they're going to be giving them packages. So like remember the 6 Ps, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. They're a poster child here for this. And look, even at a small scale, being in HR for as long as I've been, and seeing it at the corporate level, working to prevent the same exact stuff. So these things do happen, but not at this level, and not to this level of scale. And the other thing is in corporate America, we also hedge a little bit and balance using multiple types of resources, whether it be consulting resources or, third-party companies, because we know that this can sometimes be unpredictable. And what do you do? Did anybody even ask the question, like, what happens if we have such a significant increase of application, if we perform so well that we can't afford, and what are the impact on everybody else? And so were those contingency plans put in place? I don't really think so, because 4 months ago when they proposed the budget, none of this was even in the picture. So again, a lot's happened over those 4 months, but this is it's just churn. It's churn, and the end impact is twofold. Number one, the benefits for the veterans is going to get impacted, and the experience that the veterans have is going to be crappy. But most importantly is you can only do this so many times before Congress just stops listening to you. We have a great bully pulpit around veterans issues. We have a country that has been extremely supportive. My fear is that people start getting tired of hearing all this stuff, and Congress starts focusing on other things because their constituents get tired of hearing all this stuff and say, why would we give them more when they can't manage what we give them in the first place?
Excellent point. You tell truth. Jason, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, good point, Chris. And I really like your forward thinking on the massive hiring, which was another chest beat, by the way, right? It's another top. Look how many people we hired. We've done the best since whenever. Well, as we contract, right? So as the workload constricts a little bit, those people aren't going to be told to go stack wood. They're going to be let go, and they're going to be let go with packages, right? Of some sort. And it's just really strange how this organization has been. And look, I'll throw out there, maybe I'm paying attention more now, but I'll tell you, I don't really remember hearing as much. There's always going to be something, but I don't remember hearing as many debacles. Like, look, I get it. Huge organization, leadership at the highest levels is a constant change. There's a lot to uncover, a lot to work with. I get it. But, I'll give you the first 2 or 3 big issues. But when you start stacking on 6 and 7, right, let's not forget things like the $10 million in incentive bonuses for employees to retain, attract, that got spent on bonuses for the highest level executives. Let's not forget about the COVID forbearance debacle for folks that had their mortgages and lost their jobs. They were told they would be able to slide some payments to the end of their mortgage, get caught up, and just resume as normal. And then the VA ends their program. Again, writing on the wall. What's going to happen if we end this today? Well, those 40,000 people that have requested it will not be able to successfully execute that forbearance agreement, and they're going to be told to bring their loans current, which they can't. So they're going to get foreclosed on and become homeless. Wonderful. That's just, there's been so many things, all of the IT issues, the pension overpayment issues. For those that don't remember, VA's cross talk with Social Security Administration wasn't working well, and so a decade goes by, and then they want to go back and recoup tens of thousands of dollars from folks that are receiving VA pension. VA pension is low and no income veterans and surviving spouses that can receive that VA pension, which is a small amount of money. And you're going to go to them, the most vulnerable of all of us. There should be some sort of a, hey, we effed up, anything we didn't catch within a 2-year period, and then anything we caught in that 2-year period, we're going to stretch on over the next 10 years or something like that. But instead, they were wanting to come after and just no pay due folks and drive more veterans into the streets. So we want to help homeless veterans, but meanwhile, you have actions that are driving veterans into the streets, essentially. Now, those things, because of loud voices, got stopped, not eliminated, right? In some cases, they're still looking to figure out a way to deal with those things. We haven't been informed of a complete redaction of trying any of the efforts. But the other thing I wanted to throw out to you guys was, in the midst of all this chaos in the VA, I feel that the secretary is looking for anything that he could hang his hat on to have a good conversation about. And people are getting tired of hearing about the PACT Act, and a bunch of people signed up for benefits that they should have had, 10, 15, 30, 50 years ago, depending on who you're talking to. So what are the good things that the VA can talk about on how great they are? Well, one of the things that's happening out there are the claims clinics, where folks can go and get their claim decided essentially in a day or 2 days. I have a buddy of mine who flew out to Kentucky to be involved in that claims clinic, not as a veteran seeking benefits, but just as a observer of what's happening. And he said it was great. Looks like everything was going good. There was, lots of veterans there from all over the U.S. People were driving in, flying in from everywhere to go there. Why? Because they could get their claim decided in a day and a half. On its surface, right, this is an effort that was, I guess, headed up, pushed, really started by VFW, right, with the VA, and collectively they created this claims clinic. So everything from filing the claim to the C&P exam to the rater reviewing everything, sit down face to face. Okay, based on everything we got, you're going to be rated at whatever percentage. So on its face, that sounds like a huge success, right? Wow, that's great. But when you take a step back a little bit and you go, okay, there's as of July 13th, 2024, we have 271,345 claims in backlog. Okay, those ones are considered backlogged. So there's more claims. Let's not sugarcoat it, right? Because there's the backlogged version, which there's a line somewhere, right? Then it becomes backlogged. So the backlog is 271,000 claims. But meanwhile, you can go get your claim done in 2 days. One, that's unsustainable. VA can't continue to do that. Good for the people that got it done. Look, there's two sides of this coin, right? As a veteran, awesome, go do that. That's what you want to do. Get your claim done. Awesome. From a leadership perspective, which I have no leadership in the VA, but as far as looking at it from that lens, right? One, unsustainable. Two, you're front-loading people in front of the 271,000 that are already backlogged, which doesn't quite seem fair. Where's the equity in this, right? And let's throw out there, in that 271,000, I can assure you that there's more than one that is qualified for priority processing, an expedited claim process, because of their age or because they have a serious condition that could cause death, or they're at risk of becoming homeless, or there's some really complicated claims in there, like, survivor pension, the spouse passed away, they're trying to get pension, again, a low or no income benefit for veterans and spouses, dependency indemnity compensation. These are the priority type claims in my mind, and I would like to think that most veterans who are able enough to go to work. I have a job. I have a spouse who's working. I have a roof over my head. I'm just filing my benefits because I would have no problem going. Those more severe circumstances, hey, please go in front of me, get your thing. It's going to, whatever. I get delayed a week, big deal, or a month or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. You go ahead. I don't think there'd be an issue with that. But just having a free-for-all claim clinic, having people show up, I don't know. I really, really want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Randy, please, let me hear what you got to say, brother.
Yeah. Two sides to every coin. I do appreciate that there is, kind of a quick step option available for some people. But when you step back and look at the backlog, 271,000, and then look at what the VA intends to do moving into 2025 fiscal year and beyond, that's reducing the headcount by 10,000 folks within the organization. And that backlog is just going to grow. So I'm happy for the folks that were able to get their claim processed quickly. I am concerned that this backlog is going to grow. I'm concerned that the monetary resources that the VA has just figured out that it needs are going to be, unmanageable. They're not going to be able to get the $3 billion for this year. I'm worried about that. And then the 15 for next. It's a concerning number. What it feels like, Jason, is it feels like an election year kind of gimmick almost. I mean, it's good. There is some goodness that comes out of it, but it isn't sustainable. It doesn't make sense when you have folks that have been waiting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 months to get their claim processed, that somebody, who has the money can fly into Kentucky and get a same day, kind of thing done, where somebody that doesn't have the money has done their intent to file, submitted their paperwork, waited 6 months, hasn't heard back, yada, yada, yada. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a particularly fair or well thought out process. Look, and Jason hit the nail on the head a few minutes ago, folks. He went through all the things that are going on, the forbearance with the VA loans, the whole COVID debacle, this program integrity tool, on and on and on. This is not a real sexy subject. It doesn't get a lot of mainstream media coverage. But for those of you that are watching this channel right now, there is a blinking red light, on the dashboard of the VA. This is an organization that is experiencing debacle after debacle at a very, very high level with very big impacts. And there isn't a lot of coverage. It's not getting a lot of airtime. There isn't a lot of loud voices. Jason just said, loud voices kind of shine the light on the problem, and sunshine is the best steroid. There's just not a lot of coverage going on, folks, but this is as bad as I've ever seen it. Even going back to, the whole debacle with, that happened under the Obama administration with delays in care. I think, arguably this whole situation, when viewed in its totality, is worse. So there's a couple things you can do. It's an election year. Let your voice be heard. Get a hold of your veteran service organizations. If you have W and whatnot, up channel your voice. Most importantly, veterans, you guys got to tune in and pay attention to this stuff, because, little nuggets are thrown out on Military Times or Federal News Network or wherever, but the mainstream media is just not covering this. And it's a big ass problem, and it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. So that's my take. Chris, you've been so patient. I'll throw it back to you to get your take, man.
No, I'm just absorbing here. What's kind of going through my head is I love the experimentation. I love that they are being crafty about some of the problems and the problem statements that exist. It just seems that they could have done it. Why not triage these rapid processing clinics, right? Why not do it by invite only based upon the severity of the claim, and do it smaller, right? So like, you're just setting yourself up for more pain. It reminds me of the Bart Simpson, when he's pressing the electrical outlet, ow, ow, ow. There's just got to be better ways to go after solving some of these very complex problems, to where you're thinking about it long term and thinking about the totality of the impact. If things actually do go well. If things don't go well, nothing lost. I mean, to some degree, other than people wasting a bunch of money to fly to Kentucky and not get what they wanted. That's certainly not anything. But at the same time, setting yourself up for more pain is just a never-ending cycle of woe. So I do think that we should recognize and reward the intent. We should recognize and reward the successes and the learnings from this. But I think they need to do a little bit of, better planning to understand the full impact of anything they do right now, because they are just under the microscope and they just keep stepping on it, left and right. So, but let's not lose some of the bright learnings and lessons that could be leveraged at some point in the future. And then, Jesus, I don't know how long it takes to get technology embedded as solutions, but in the VA, but and I know that they are trying some things with AI and some other tools, but there's just got to be more, like Randy said, sunlight, sterilization, and thinking about how do we do this better, more efficient in the past, because doing this big hiring ramp, and trust me, I've done big hiring ramps. You're incentivizing the hell out of your recruiters. They probably paid all kinds of money for hitting hiring targets early and et cetera. But also, there's in February, they also pulled the reins back and they were trying to slow the offers down because they started seeing some of the problems that they've created. And so then you create other issues like with bad planning and bad contingency strategies. You're going to not do anything but create more work for yourself on things that aren't driving to the goals of the organization, right? So, man, it's just frustrating. Jason, Randy?
No, I mean, hey, this has been a good discussion. We've got several other topics to cover today, so I'm going to just kind of close out this topic in the interest of time. We are going to put a link to it below. Again, the ask is to like and subscribe, share with a friend if this information isn't out there. Again, what we talked about today was this whole, update on the budget shortfall that's taken place at the VA and some of the side stuff that's happening with clinics and whatnot. So appreciate you watching today. Stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up where we're going to cover some other really cool tools.